beautifully punctual, like we like things here at Ladies Fund. And he's not only the founder of Bikeia, the largest network of motorbikes serving co-demand transport, logistics, and payment services in Pakistan, the full on-demand roster of services in that way. Muneeb graduated from the University of Virginia to work in investment banking at Bear Stearns in New York City right after college. He then led a 600-person back office for SNL Financial in Islamabad, a business acquired then by Standard & Poor. Prior to Bikeia, he was, of course, co-founder and CEO at Daraz.pk, Pakistan's leading e-commerce platform acquired by Alibaba Group. We are so honored to have him, and thank you. The floor is now yours. Thank you for joining us, Muneeb.
One of the very few who's able to get through the hurdles to get that kind of a job. And that taught, I think, work ethic, because investment banking hours are long, and so, you know, I mean, you also learn a lot, but they're very long hours. So I think that allowed me to understand the meaning of hard work. And right after that, basically, I went and joined a company called SNL, which sold data to investment banks. And then within a few months, was able to convince them to outsource work to me in Pakistan. So about a year after that, I moved back to Islamabad, where I helped start from a 3-4 person operation to what ended up becoming, after about 7 years, about a 650, 700 person odd operation. That business, even today, continues to be the second largest IT exporter from Pakistan. So the number one is NetSol, and number two is what is today called S&P, Standard & Poor's Intelligence, but it used to be called SNL. And so that business primarily was in the wage arbitrage business, where we would employ people who could speak in English, who could, who had basic semblance of what, how to extrapolate numbers from an income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement, and sort of data into them and work back certain ratios. And so that business in Islamabad right now is, I think, about 1,500 people. But after about 6-7 years at SNL and leading that business, I basically, with a colleague of mine, Manan, we helped build a eBay type platform, and we were trying to raise money for it. And we ended up speaking with the guys at Rocket Internet, who were the incubators for Daraz.pk. And right about the time they were starting Daraz.pk, I decided to move to Karachi to help start e-commerce with them in Pakistan. The reason I chose to do that was because I was unable to raise capital for my own startup, my eBay platform, and I thought it was no better way for me to learn about how to start e-commerce than to be bestowed with perhaps one of the largest budgets in the decade, frankly speaking, for e-commerce. And so the next 4 years, I helped build Daraz.pk with another co-founder of mine, Fareez Shah. And so we helped ramp the business to be ready to be sold to Alibaba Group. Both of us left about a year or so before it got acquired by Alibaba, and I moved on to start Bikeia. And the premise behind Bikeia, and we can move to the slide now, Tara. The premise behind Bikeia was that, how do you get the internet to be used by a larger demographic of people in this country, right? Because if you look at my background, where I was coming from, my first 7 years back in Pakistan, I used the internet to get people in Pakistan to be employed by an employer in the US, and use the internet to sort of get work done in Pakistan, but used or utilized in the US, or really for that matter, anywhere in the world, right? And so the internet that we were using was very, very high-end corporate internet, right? But after about 7 years there, the next wave of the internet was really around laptops or desktops. And so when DSL internet came about, we suddenly, all of us, or many of us, had access to the internet. And again, this was predominantly the English-speaking demographic in the country, which is about 10% of the size of the country, or the audience that can comprehend English. So there are about 220 million odd people in the country, and about like 20 odd million people can comprehend English. So we were addressing that demographic primarily to buy initially fashion. So from kurtas to shoes, and t-shirts, and then shortly, about 2 years into Daraz, we transformed the business into a general merchandise business. And what that meant was that we could also sell things like smartphones, and we could sell electronic gadgets, and so forth. And so, the internet was used mostly on a laptop, right? And right about the time I was about to leave Daraz, the daily users on Baikia had started to skew more and more towards mobile, right? So I could see that the next wave of the internet was really going to come on mobile devices, right? And when Careem and Uber started, and started deploying serious capital, like that kind of capital, the kind of capital that Careem and Uber deployed in Pakistan, I think it has been a blessing for Pakistan, because it's probably 10 times, in fact even more, like probably 15 times the 15 or 20 times the amount of capital that Daraz put into Pakistan. So it was just so much capital being deployed. Where was the capital being deployed? The capital was being deployed to drive adoption, to change behaviors, and so that, when I saw that coming, I kind of recognized a couple of things, right? One, I recognized that this whole play around car ride hailing would not last very long, right? And the reason for that was quite simple. The fact was that basically people in Pakistan are quite poor, right? Again, there's only about 10% of the population that can even comprehend English, and in reality, the fare, for example, an average trip of about 10 kilometers was about like 300 odd rupees. But 300 rupees doesn't, like, after you take the commissions out and after you take the fuel costs out, like what the driver's really left with is about $1. So, right? And like $1 every 45 minutes or so, it was just not enough money for this model to make economic sense. Like, any business that you take a look at, like, get past the glitz, get past the sparkles, right? And go back and actually do basic math. Like, it's literally, it boils down to, like, what are you paying? Like, what are you paying as a customer? And what does the supply cost, right? So automatically start thinking about motorbikes. And the reason for motorbikes, and if you move on to the next slide, was that Pakistan has a lot of them, right? So Pakistan has a lot of motorbikes, and we've been, a lot of people said that, introducing motorbike taxi was not going to work in Pakistan because, there was no precedence. We didn't have bike taxi in Pakistan like we had bike taxis in Jakarta, or for that matter, Ho Chi Minh, which is Saigon. And so there was no precedence, so there was not much to amplify. But, the reality is there was no car hailing in Pakistan either prior to Careem. So, and frankly, Careem and Uber were spending a lot of money on educating the masses on the fact that you could, install an app, click a button, and call a motorbike driver. So I left Daraz in the summer of 2016 and spent about 3-4 months or so, trying to basically lay the foundation for, or the plan for, what is it that I wanted to sort of like, go out and venture and do next? And the idea, and initially, like, everybody I would go to, they'd be like, oh, that's not cool. Urdu mein kaun si app hoti hai, right? So, I mean, in a strange way, like, we kind of hate our language as well. Like, the fact that I'm also speaking to you in English is part and parcel to this whole problem, right? But I recognized a couple of things. I recognized that I'm a burger, right? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I am privileged. I grew up in a household where we mixed Urdu and English. I was privileged for great education. I was privileged with exposure. Had traveled quite a bit. But if the internet was to mean anything, right? Mean anything for Pakistan, like, it could not continue to just address 10% of the population, right? And I just couldn't fathom कि आम पाकिस्तानी जो है वो 3,000 रुपए का कुर्ता लेगा या would buy like a brand new 10,000 20,000 रुपए का phone. Like, the income propensity of an average Pakistani is just not there, right? Like, you may be like, yeah, you may be excited कि जी loan जो है, loan का piece जो है वो जी 5,000 या 6,000 या 7,000 रुपए का है, and ये पाकिस्तान की प्राइड है. मैं तो कहता हूँ शर्म करना चाहिए हमें. ये पाकिस्तान की प्राइड क्या है? ये हमने क्या बनाया है जो consumable luxury good है, for a very, very tiny portion of the audience. Like, is this our claim to fame, right? So the idea was, let's make an app in Urdu, okay, and let's try and figure out basic needs क्या हैं लोगों की, right? क्योंकि बाइकें बहुत ज़्यादा है पाकिस्तान में, स्मार्टफोन भी ग्रो हो रहे हैं, लेकिन I mean, reality तो ये है कि most of the population of Pakistan cannot search and type in its own language. Right? I mean, how many of you can search or type on a keyboard in Urdu? I can guarantee you, 90% of you can't, right? और ये हम realize नहीं करे कितना बड़ा hurdle होने लगा है पाकिस्तान के लिए, क्योंकि एक बेचारा जो बंदा है वो बिलफर्ज मंडी भावदीन से निकलता है, maybe सराइकी बोले, maybe पंजाबी बोले, comes from a tier 3 part of the country. By the time he gets to like secondary education, he has to learn Urdu. बीच में उस पे उर्दू अरबी भी ठोस रहे होते हैं कि अरबी भी सीखो आप. घर पे बेसिक पंजाबी बोल रहा है या पश्तो बोल रहा है या कोई और ज़बान बोल रहा है. स्कूल में जाके उर्दू सीखने की कोशिश कर रहा है, फिर ऊपर से अरबी ठोसी जा रही है उसके ऊपर. And by the time he gets to like, he or she gets to like metric, उनको कहते हैं सॉरी जी अब तो हायर एजुकेशन सिर्फ अंग्रेजी में है, राइट? सो हमने आयरॉनिकली अपने मुल्क को बड़ा जो है ना स्ट्रक्चरली मेस अप कर दिया है, और ये शर्म की बात है क्योंकि हमारे साथ ईरान है जहाँ के सारी हायर एजुकेशन फारसी में. इनफैक्ट ईरान में टेक्नोलॉजी इतनी ज़्यादा बूम हो गई है कि जैसे आप लोग एंड्रॉयड के प्ले स्टोर पे जाके एप्स इंस्टॉल करते हो, ईरान में आप प्ले स्टोर पे नहीं जाते. ईरान में आप उनके एक स्टोर है, लोकल है, कॉल्ड कैफे बाजार. आप कैफे बाजार पे जाके और सारी की सारी एप्स फारसी में, मतलब कोई ऐप अंग्रेजी में नहीं है, राइट? So, and I mean, people say India is a good example. I think India is a terrible example, absolutely terrible example, because India has the same fundamental problems that Pakistan has. A better example, frankly speaking, would be Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia में चले जाएं, सब लोग अरबी में लिख रहे हैं, right? So I think ये एक डिवाइड हमने क्रिएट कर दिया और इसको फॉस्टर किए जा रहे हैं. I think as a nation, it's not something I can do, but like as a nation, we need to decide. उर्दू है नहीं ज़्यादातर लोगों की, right? So I think like at some point we have to make that decision, but I'll leave it at that. But the reality is like I wanted to like go out intrinsically, make sure that we made an app that was relevant and comprehensible for the larger masses, right? And so the reason an Urdu app was important was that we had to make sure कि majority of the app में किसी को कुछ type ना करना पड़े. अब आप सोचो कि the reason we were thinking this कि जब मैं Uber की app देखता था, right? तो Uber की app में पहली चीज लिखी है where to. अब आप अपने चौकीदार को जाके कह दें कि जी type in English खयाबान शमशीर, रो पिटेगा बेसिस उससे 5 मिनट में खयाबान शमशीर नहीं लिखा जाएगा, right? So like I knew, and this is a story I want to like sort of like focus on. You have to understand कि जो इतना भी ग्लोबल कंपेटिटर्स के पास पैसा हो, उनके पास उस लेवल की नॉलेज नहीं है जो आपके पास नॉलेज है कि आप उस मार्केट को ब्रेक कैसे करेंगे। तो हमने जो बाइक के बारे में सोचा वो इसलिए नहीं सोचा कि जी हम कार कैटेगरी शुरू नहीं कर सकते। I mean, we can start the car category like in 2 days. You tell us start the car category in 2 days, we can. You tell us start the rickshaw category in 2 days, we can. Why didn't we? Because it doesn't make any economic sense. Because किराया देने के लिए कोई हम ही नहीं। करीम उबर से पहले जो है मेट्रो कैब भी चल रही थी, किराया कितना था? 500-600-700 रुपए। ठीक है, आज आप हर बुकिंग के लिए 500-600-700 रुपए देने के लिए तैयार है? नहीं तैयार, राइट? लेकिन असल इकोनॉमिक जो कॉस्ट है, जिसमें गाड़ी का कॉस्ट भी डल रहा है, तनख्वाह का कॉस्ट भी डल रहा है ड्राइवर का, वो 500-600-700 रुपए ही है, राइट? वो 300 रुपए नहीं है। सो वेरी डिलिबरेटली चोज मोटर बाइक्स। मोटर बाइक पे देखें, आप अमेरिका में हो ना, अमेरिका में गाड़ी में 4 व्हीलर में आपने एक जगह से दूसरी जगह भी जाना है, आपने 4 व्हीलर में पिज्जा भी डिलीवर करना है। So Domino's in the US is delivered in a 4-wheeler car, right? You will also, अगर आप ई-कॉमर्स का कोई पार्सल डिलीवर कर रहे हैं अमेजोन के लिए, तो अमेजोन भी कार्स इस्तेमाल करता है, राइट? बट दैट्स बिकॉज इन अमेरिका सबसे ज्यादा जो व्हीकल्स रोड पे हैं वो कार्स हैं। पाकिस्तान में ये नहीं है। पाकिस्तान में मोटर बाइक्स exceed or are 4 times the number of 4-wheeler cars in this country, right? So by default हमने कहा जी सप्लाई सबसे ज्यादा कहाँ है? सप्लाई सबसे ज्यादा बाइक्स पे। और बाइक्स ऐसी हैं कि जी पाकिस्तान में आप उनको सवारी के लिए भी इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। एंड ऑफ कोर्स यू कैन से कि जी इट डजंट केटर टू वुमेन, बट लिसन, आई मीन द रियलिटी इज like when I go out in the market, how many women do I see on the road? So let us first solve for men, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली औरतों के लिए सॉल्व करने के लिए हमें ये नहीं कि औरतों को बाइकें चलवानी है। आप वियतनाम चले जाएं, आप क्या कहते हैं जकार्ता चले जाएं, ठीक है, औरतें नहीं बाइक टैक्सी के ड्राइवर मर्द ही है, लेकिन दे हैव गॉटन ओवर द हर्डल कि यार औरत किसी गैर मर्द के साथ बैठ सकती है बाइक के ऊपर, right? They've gotten over that hurdle. In Pakistan, we haven't gotten over that hurdle. ये हमारे अपने cultural, I would say, religious से ज़्यादा हमारे cultural problems हैं। Religious problems होती हैं तो फिर हज़रत आयशा एक जंग ना lead करी होती, right? So I think we have more cultural problems, and those are not for me to solve or our team to solve immediately. For us, basically, the problem to solve is कि जी सस्ते किराए में किस तरह 2 पार्टीज को मिला सकें ताकि बेइंतहा पैसे जलाने ना पड़े, इंसेंटिव ना देने पड़े। और बाइक पे आप सवारी भी कर सकते हो, बाइक पे आप पार्सल भी एक जगह से दूसरी जगह पहुंचा सकते हो, और बाइक पे आप सीओडी भी वसूल कर सकते हो, जिसका मतलब है you're also in the payment business, right? And our bet is कि एब्सोल्युटली पाकिस्तान डिजिटल होगा, लेकिन आहिस्ता आहिस्ता करके होगा, एकदम डिजिटल नहीं होगा, राइट? खासकर बेसिकली यहाँ की बेशतर आवाम जो है, अगर आप मिडिल क्लास को ही देख लो तो मिडिल क्लास की अगर बेसिकली पॉपुलेशन तकरीबन कोई 40-50 मिलियन है, तो ये 40-50 मिलियन को आप पहले कन्वर्ट करेंगे, अपर क्लास आपकी तकरीबन को 15 से 20 मिलियन है, इसको आप कन्वर्ट करेंगे तो बेसिकली आप लोअर क्लास पे आएंगे। लोअर क्लास तो अभी वो छोड़े, वो तो स्मार्टफोन पे भी नहीं है, राइट? सो वो तो अभी तक बेसिक फीचर फोन पे। So fortunately we were able to convince investors कि we had the right team, और मैं आपको गारंटी करके दे सकता हूं कि आज आप हमारे कंपेटिटर्स की टीम खड़ी करें और हमारी टीम बाइकिया की टीम खड़ी करें, और जमीन आसमान का फर्क है। और मैं इसलिए नहीं कह रहा क्योंकि बेसिकली वी रन बाइकिया, बट लाइक आवर पीपल आर वेरी वेरी कॉम्पिटेंट, राइट? उनके यहाँ तो बस अंग्रेजी बोलने वाले लोग हैं या वो लोग हैं जो बेसिकली पैसा ज्यादा खर्च कर सकते हैं, बट लाइक इफ यू टॉक अबाउट actual building things, so our team really has that capability, right? And executing, and so we've been fortunate कि investors ने believe किया हमारे अंदर। आज हम basically 3 शहरों में, पिंडी इस्लामाबाद को अगर आप 2 शहर समझे तो 4 शहरों में, and कोविड से पहले business was doing fantastic। कोविड के दौरान काफी बर्बादी हुई है, but we're hoping कि basically बिल आखिर पैंडेमिक तो खत्म होना है, ये नहीं कि ताउम्र पैंडेमिक ही रहना है, सो वी बिलीव कि जब ये नॉर्मलसी भी आती है तो हमारी बिजनेस बूम करेगी, क्योंकि जैसे रिसेशन आएगी लोग पैसे बचाएंगे, जैसे लोग पैसे बचाएंगे तो फजूल खर्ची खत्म करेंगे, फजूल खर्ची खत्म करेंगे तो बाइक पे आएंगे, राइट? सो यू नो आज तकरीबन 30,000 बंदा प्री कोविड हमारा ड्राइवर पार्टनर भी था हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म पे, एंड most people don't realize we're probably one of the top 10 20 employers in the country, like literally, like, and you know this has not happened in more than like couple 3 years or so. So you know, technology allows this. Technology allows basically hyperscale, very quickly things to scale, right? uh, of course a lot of that has required money. So ये नहीं कि basically हम कोई profitable business है, आज भी बाइकिया profitable नहीं है, तभी investor से पैसे raise किए जा रही है, और इंशाल्लाह बेसिकली Q4 में हम और भी पैसे रेज करेंगे। लेकिन अगेन पैसे जो हम रेज कर रहे हैं, हम रेज कर रहे हैं ताकि ये अल्टीमेटली एक लॉन्ग टर्म सस्टेनेबल बिजनेस बन पड़े, जिसको फॉरेन कंपनियां अटैक ना करें। अभी तक तो ये हो रहा है ना कि बेसिकली हमने आइडिया क्रिएट किया, जो कि फॉरेन कंपनियां आई, उन्होंने कहा कि मारो, खत्म करो बेसिक बाइकिया को, यू नो, ताकि हमारा राज आए, राइट? सो ऑफ कोर्स दैट हैज वर्कड विद मेनी एफएमसीजी कंपनियां। भी चिप्स भी पाकिस्तान में नहीं बनते अब तो क्या कहते हैं, कोल्ड ड्रिंक्स भी पाकिस्तान में नहीं होते, सारी की सारी चीजें, हमें तो बेसिकली नशा हो गया बेसिक बाहर की चीजों से। But anyways, you know, I hope sense prevails, and you know, policy makers in Pakistan enable local companies to fight back, you know, and I think we can, and inshallah basically आप देखेंगे कि over the next 12 months or so, Baikia has a lot of things planned. I think, you know, our foray particularly into payments, अभी हमने एक ऊपर से खोखा सा बनाया हुआ है, जो कि एक बेसिक MVP प्रोडक्ट है, लेकिन inshallah in the next quarter or two, when we really start scaling our part of the payment business, you will recognize that what we're trying to do is fundamentally different to anything anybody has ever done in this country. So happy to speak more about that. So we can move on to the next slide, Tara. Yeah, so you know, one thing, आप लोगों ने कोई भी काम शुरू करना है, and it doesn't really matter कि आप एक दुकान शुरू कर रहे हैं, कि ऑनलाइन स्टोर शुरू कर रहे हैं, कि ऐप शुरू कर रहे हैं, कि वेबसाइट शुरू कर रहे हैं, it's all of this is kind of irrelevant, right? Because all of these are just channels. मेरे पास एक फिजिकल दुकान हो या मेरे पास फेसबुक पेज हो, कि मेरे पास ऐप हो, बात एक ही है कि जी आप what market are you addressing? You know, what is that size of that market? What is the addressable market, right? So, you know, अगर मैं दुकान चूज कर रहा होता हूँ तो दुकान में वही चूज करता हूँ जहाँ ट्रैफिक ज्यादा होता है, जहाँ लोग जो है बेसिकली जिनकी यू नो चलना फिरना लोगों का ज्यादा होगा। मॉल इसलिए मैं चूज करता हूँ क्योंकि वहाँ एक कैप्टिव ऑडियंस आती है दूसरी दुकानों के लिए, उधर बेसिकली आई विल हैव वॉक-इन्स। So you know, when we were thinking of Baikia, the reason we were thinking of Baikia, and I mentioned this earlier as well, is कि पाकिस्तान में बहुत ज्यादा लोग हैं, 220 मिलियन लोग हैं, and we don't believe कि ये जो इंटरनेशनल कंपनियां ग्लोबल प्रोडक्ट्स लेके आती हैं एक रिलेटिवली अनपढ़ मुल्क में, राइट, they cannot execute as quickly and as efficiently as a local company can. And मेरे ख्याल में अभी तक जो सक्सेस आई है वो टेलकोस को आई है, वो बिल्कुल फॉरेन कंपनी है, जैसे टेलीनॉर को आप देख लें, फॉरेन कंपनी है, नॉर्वेजियन कंपनी है, लेकिन आई है और बिल्कुल लोकलाइज किया चीजों को। बहुत टाइम लगा है उन्हें, ठीक है, करने में, लेकिन उन्होंने लोकलाइज किए, और लोकलाइज किए तो वो एक आम शहरी से या आम गांव देहाती से वो पैसे ले पाए, राइट? एंड ऑफ कोर्स अ लॉट ऑफ दैट इज फैसिलिटेटेड। अगर आप किराने की दुकानें देखें, दे यूज किराने की दुकानें एज द मीडियम ऑफ एंगेजमेंट विद अ रिलेटिवली इलिटरेट पॉपुलेशन। और ये तो पॉपुलेशन ऐसी है कि इसको तो अंग्रेजी छोड़े उर्दू में सही चीजें समझ नहीं आती, तो बीच में उन्होंने फैसिलिटेटर खड़ा कर दिया जो कि दुकानदार था, जो कि दुकानदार ट्रांसलेट करता था लोगों के लिए। लोग इश्तिहार देखते थे टीवी पे, एंड अल्टीमेटली बेसिकली जो दुकानदार था वो ट्रांसलेट करता था जो मैसेज था और हैंड होल्डिंग करता था फॉर दैट मार्केट बी कैप्चर। So I think, you know, you need to, whatever business that you're trying to do, you need to literally on a एक्सेल की स्प्रेडशीट या गूगल शीट या पेपर पे आपने बैठ के ये सब कुछ स्पेक आउट करना है कि आपकी मार्केट है क्या, राइट? अब मैं आपको एग्जांपल देता हूँ, ठीक है? अब अगर बाइकिया ने बाइक टैक्सी को केटर करना है तो बाइकिया देखेगा कि जी कराची, लाहौर, इस्लामाबाद में जिन जिन 3 शहरों में हम लोग हैं उसमें कितने लोग हैं? तो लेट्स से 30 मिलियन लोग हैं, राइट? सो 30 मिलियन लोग हैं, लेकिन इन 30 मिलियन लोगों में से आधी तो औरतें हैं, राइट? सो 15 मिलियन लोग रह गए। लेकिन 15 मिलियन लोगों में से यू नो ना तो बच्चे बेसिकली इस्तेमाल करेंगे ना बूढ़े इस्तेमाल करेंगे, उसको भी आप टेंटेटिवली आधा करते हैं, 7 मिलियन लोग रह गए। सो 7 मिलियन टेक्निकली मेरी एड्रेसेबल मार्केट है, उसमें से भी मैं 10% शेव ऑफ कर दूं, आप समझो मिलियन शेव ऑफ कर दूं, तो 6 मिलियन लोग मेरे पास रह जाए, राइट? सो the reason I walked you through this is whatever business that you're starting, you need to drill down to this. And you need to know this at the tip of your fingers, right? If you don't know who you're targeting, right? And of course, इसमें further granular details में आप जाएंगे क्योंकि उसमें से काफी सारे ऐसे लोग होंगे जो कि बेसिकली उनकी अपनी बाइक होगी या बेसिकली उनकी अपनी कार होगी या बेसिकली they could be using an existing form of transport, मतलब बस पे ट्रैवल कर सकते हैं या बेसिकली वैनों पे ट्रैवल कर सकते हैं. So you have to drill down, you have to really figure out कि आपकी addressable potential market है कितनी बड़ी और आपने पहले 6 महीने, पहले साल, पहले 2 साल, 3 साल में कितनी परसेंटेज इस मार्केट की कैप्चर करनी है, ठीक है? ऑब्वियसली इट कैन ऑल्सो बी कि आप जो है इन 3 शहरों से एक्सपैंड कर लो, दूसरे शहरों में आ जाओ, फैसलाबाद में शुरू कर दो, मुल्तान में शुरू कर दो, पेशावर में शुरू कर दो, हैदराबाद में शुरू कर दो, तो आपकी वो 30 मिलियन बढ़ती रहेगी, लेकिन अल्टीमेटली यू हैव टू गो थ्रू द सेम फॉर्मूला ऑफ ड्रिलिंग इट डाउन, राइट? So I think identifying the addressable market is super important for whatever you're trying to do. Tara, we can move on to the next slide. Yeah, and so the next thing you have to figure out is how are you going to reach this audience, right? And how are you going to convey a message to them? I mean, देखिए आप दुकान तो सिंपल है, राइट? दुकान तो सिंपल है क्योंकि विजुअल है, राइट? क्योंकि आप चल रहे होंगे, लोग आपके प्रोडक्ट्स देखेंगे, 2-4 मिनट और लगा लेंगे आपकी दुकान के अंदर और दुकान में आके पूरे प्रोडक्ट्स देखेंगे. लेकिन जो आप डिजिटल वर्ल्ड में हो तो द क्वेश्चन इज वो कस्टमर कहाँ से आ रहा है और किस मीडियम में आपसे कम्युनिकेट कर रहा है. एंड अक्सर लोग तो काफी सिंपल चीजें करते हैं, जैसे एक प्रोडक्ट बेच रहे हैं, कप केक बेच रहे हैं या बिलफर्स वो कोई जोड़ा बेच रहे हैं, राइट? सो you can still show that in a singular format, but some things require communication. Now that communication can happen by chat. That communication in Baikia's case is not initially happening in chat, right? So in our case basically the first thing is कोई कस्टमर पहुंचेगा तो उससे हमें 2-3 स्टेप्स लेने, 2-3 प्रीरेक्विजिट्स लेने कि जी आपकी लोकेशन क्या है, आपने जाना कहाँ है, राइट? आप किराए पे हामी हैं कि नहीं है. सो ये हमने ऑटोमेटिकली चीजें लेनी है ताकि सेकंड पार्टी से टेलीफोनिक बात करने से पहले ये चीजें तय हो, राइट? सो I mean today obviously for most of you if you are doing e-commerce आपके लिए that medium is Facebook, right? And for us also, for Baikia as well, basically the medium of getting the lead surely is Facebook. लेकिन लीड एक दफा क्लिक करके आपकी तरफ अगर आ गई तो फिर क्या होगा, फिर वो कम्युनिकेशन कैसे ऑटोमेट होगी. सो हमारा काम एज अ कंपनी इज नॉट टेक्नोलॉजी. लाइक अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल थिंक के जी हम इंजीनियरिंग बड़ी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है. इंजीनियरिंग कॉम्प्लिकेटेड नहीं है, राइट? व्हाट इज कॉम्प्लिकेटेड इज दिस जर्नी कि जी उस क्लिक के बाद नेक्स्ट क्या होगा. और अगर आप एक डिसीजन ट्री पे आते हैं, बिलफर्ज आप कहते हैं कि जी उसके बाद व्हाट्सएप के बटन पे क्लिक होगा, तो व्हाट्सएप के बटन पे आप अस्यूम करें कि कस्टमर कितने नौयत के सवाल पूछ सकता है, 1 2 3 4. सो फॉर ऑल दोस टाइप्स ऑफ क्वेश्चंस व्हाट इज योर रिस्पांस गोइंग टू बी, ठीक है? कैन यू ऑटोमेट दैट? कैन यू क्रिएट अ बॉट फॉर इट? डू यू नीड टू सोलिसिट? डू यू नीड टू आस्क फॉर द एड्रेस, मतलब आप वो उससे जीपीएस लोकेशन लेंगे। अक्सर लोगों को तो बेसिकली लोकेशन शेयर भी नहीं करनी आती बेसिक व्हाट्सएप के ऊपर, हालांकि काफी सिंपल है। जिस तरह आप फोटो शेयर करते हैं उसी तरह बेसिकली उसी अटैच के बटन को आप क्लिक करेंगे और लोकेशन भी शेयर कर सकते हैं, राइट? पर लोग इस्तेमाल नहीं करते, सो दे डोंट नो हाउ टू डू दैट। सो इसलिए आप फोन पे पूछ रहे होते हैं, जी प्लीज अपनी लोकेशन बता दें जी, यू नो, यू डोंट नीड दैट, राइट? यू एक्चुअली ओनली नीड द जीपीएस लोकेशन। सो व्हाट इज सुपर इंपॉर्टेंट इज कि आप मैप आउट करें कि हर स्टेप पे होगा क्या, और आपने क्या रूल्स बनाए हुए हैं जिसके तहत आप उस कस्टमर को घेरेंगे, right? Because you have to essentially get that customer before that customer loses interest, right? And frankly speaking, enthusiasm doesn't cut it. Like, you can be the most enthusiastic person in the world, but you will run out of energy, right? So it cannot, like, enthusiasm is not the answer. The answer is, how do you standardize it? How do you automate it? Okay? So for us, basically, this is what we think about day in, day out. Tara, you can move on to the next slide. फिर जो बहुत एक इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज है वो ये है कि जो आप ये कस्टमर एक्वायर कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, इस कस्टमर के एक्वायर करने पे आपको कॉस्ट क्या पड़ रहा है, और जो आप चीज बेच रहे हैं, एंड फॉर सिंपलिसिटी लेट्स अस्यूम कि आप कुर्ता बेच रहे हैं, ठीक है, उस कुर्ते की कॉस्ट क्या है। बिलफर्ज आप कुर्ता 1000 रुपए का बेच रहे हैं, ठीक है, और उस कुर्ते की कॉस्ट 750 रुपए, राइट? एंड जब आप एडवर्टाइजिंग का हिसाब लगाते हैं तो आपके एडवर्टाइजिंग पे लग जाते हैं बिलफर्ज 100 रुपए। सडनली योर कॉस्ट इज नाउ गॉन फ्रॉम 750 to 850 रुपए, ठीक है। देन आपके बेसिकली डिलीवरी पे लग जाते हैं अनदर 100 रुपए। सो आप कहते हैं जी वो 850 की जगह 950 हो गए, लेकिन आप कहते हैं खैर है, फिर भी मैं 50 रुपए तो बना रही हूँ, राइट? आई एम स्टिल मेकिंग अ प्रॉफिट। Not really, because you're not factoring in the cost of your cost. So if you were to not do this, and if you were to go get a job, right, what would you be paid? And what would you be paid per hour in, let's say, 26 days that you're working? And so that is your real cost, right? So you need to bake that in. So for example, if you had a cost of 200 rupees, then to ye aap kurta loss mein bech rahe hain, right? So, you know, it's in our world, in the venture capital world or your investment raising world, all of this is called unit economics. और unit economics का मतलब ये है, and बाइकिया का मैं example आपको देता हूँ कि जी, you know, what are the input costs, ठीक है, and what percentage of earning will you get out of it? And reality for बाइकिया हम लोग टॉफियां बेच रहे हैं, और मैं टॉफियों का एग्जांपल इसलिए दूंगा क्योंकि we need to sell a lot of these bookings to make really any meaningful amounts of money, right? So किराया मैंने डॉलर में लिखा है just for simplicity, लेकिन आप समझिए 150 रुपए का किराया है, तो मतलब डॉलर का किराया है, राइट? लेकिन अगर मैं सिर्फ सप्लाई साइड को देखूंगा, और इस एग्जांपल में मैंने डिमांड साइड नहीं दिखाई, सिर्फ सप्लाई साइड दिखाई, लेकिन सप्लाई साइड पे आपको बाइक जो है 16-17 हजार रुपए की बेशक फीचर मिलेगी, लेकिन बाइक मिल जाएगी, राइट? सो $100 की आपको बाइक भी मिलेगी, लेकिन अगर आप इसका जनरली हिसाब लगाएं कि ये बाइक वाला 100 बुकिंग्स करेगा तो बेसिकली बाइक का खर्चा निकल आएगा, बाइक का कॉस्ट निकल आएगा। बट इमेजिन कि मैं आपको 300 रुपए का एग्जांपल दे रहा था, गाड़ी का किराया जो आप 300 रुपए देते हैं, उस पर बेसिक 25% कटौती होती है। 25% जब कटौती आप करेंगे, उसके बाद आप पेट्रोल का खर्चा निकालेंगे, कुल भी 150 रुपए बचेगा ड्राइवर के लिए। तो अगर $1 नकद गाड़ी वाला किराया बना रहा है, तो $5000 की जो गाड़ी है उसका किराया कैसे पूरा करेगा? उसकी इकोनॉमिक सेंस क्या होगी? कोई सेंस नहीं है। एंड सो बेसिकली you need to do basic math, right? And if you don't do this math, you will be disappointed in 6 months. Tara, we can move on to the next slide. देखिए जी, अक्सर लोग कहते हैं कि जी मैं कैसे compete करूंगा इतने बड़े प्लेयर्स के खिलाफ, उनकी बहुत बड़ी ब्रांड है, उनके पास बहुत पैसे हैं एडवर्टाइजिंग। मैं नहीं, आई एम नॉट एडवोकेटिंग कि आप किसी बड़ी ब्रांड के खिलाफ जो है बेसिकली compete करें, लेकिन you have to realize कि why are they big? They're big because the opportunity is big, right? So whatever they're doing, that opportunity is so big that they've become big, right? So if that opportunity is big, why would you not go and find their flaws, right? And why would you not try to basically figure out how to penetrate that segment doing things slightly better, right? क्योंकि बड़े इदारों के पास पैसा तो भरपूर होता है, they have a lot of money, right? But what they don't have is they don't have empathy. And by empathy, and you can Google what it means exactly in English, but they have no care or love or affinity for either their workers or their customers, really. The only solution they know is to throw money. That's it. That's the only solution they know, right? Because they have a lot of it, right? So I would absolutely encourage you to look at your competitors and study them very deeply. Like if you come to me, for example, or forget me, मैं तो investor हूँ भी नहीं, लेकिन आप किसी भी investor के पास अगर जाएंगे, और अगर आपके इन्वेस्टर ऐसे सवाल करें जिससे उनको ये एहसास हो कि उनको वो ज्यादा इंटेलिजेंट हैं और उनको ज्यादा इल्म है आपकी स्पेस के बारे में, या आपको इल्म इतना नहीं है जितना वो समझते हैं, तो they will never trust you. They will never trust you with their money, right? So you need to know your competition better than anybody else, and frankly speaking, sometimes better than the people working at competition. You need to know their business and the flaws in their business better than their employees or their leaders. So Tara, we can move on. And customer acquisition का मतलब ये कि जी आपने customer कैसे आप लेके आए अपनी तरफ. I think for most of you, आप लोग अक्सर जो है customers जो हैं अपनी या word of mouth के through लेते हैं या आप online marketing करके लेते हैं. But whenever you're doing this, you also need to understand कि अगर वो 1000 रुपए के कुर्ते की एग्जांपल ले लें, अगर उस पे 100 रुपए कॉस्ट है फेसबुक का फॉर एग्जांपल, तो ओके वो आपके मार्जिन में से निकल रहा है, लेकिन if that cost obviously becomes considerably higher, it becomes 300 rupees, then it's not meaningful, right? Frankly speaking, many big companies, including us, including IKEA, right? We will not factor in the one-time cost. हम assume ये करेंगे कि ये customer वापस आता रहेगा और हमारा customer बनता रहेगा और हर दफा हमें थोड़े से पैसे देगा, और हमने ये हिसाब लगाया हुआ है कि जी ये customer bill first, just as an example, ये customer basically महीने में हमारी तरफ आएगा 5, 6, 7 दफा आएगा, और हमारी बेट ये है कि जी फर्स्ट टाइम अगर हमारे पैसे रिकवर नहीं हुए तो दूसरी दफा हो गए, दूसरी दफा नहीं हुए तो तीसरी दफा होंगी, तीसरी दफा नहीं हुए तो चौथी दफा हो गए. And so the kind of money that we, or for that matter any big brand, spends is a lot more money that you can spend, right? Now of course it's quite possible that you also sell a product जिसमें customer वापस आके repurchase करेगा, but again many of you don't run a platform जिस पे customer different type की चीजें ले सकता है, so that probability is kind of low. But you need to measure all of this, right? So if you're not measuring this, फिर आप you're not you're not really working very intelligently. And अगर आपने दुकान खड़ी की होती तो frankly speaking जो आप किराया दे रहे हैं, लेकिन दुकान तो आप किसी भी मोहल्ले में ले सकते हैं, लेकिन अगर आप दुकान किसी मॉल में ले रहे हैं तो जो प्रीमियम आप दे रहे हैं वो एक्चुअली रेंटल कॉस्ट नहीं है. जो प्रीमियम आप दे रहे हैं उस मॉल में होने के लिए वो मार्केटिंग कॉस्ट है. सो बिल फर्ज आपको एक आम दुकान अगर 20,000 की मिलती है और वही दुकान जो है मॉल के अंदर लाख रुपए की है, तो आप 80,000 रुपए मार्केटिंग प्रीमियम में दे रहे हैं. सो देन यू नीड टू मेजर दैट एंड आइडेंटिफाई whether that's sustainable or not, right? Because all of that is also just marketing, right? And of course for many businesses वो प्रीमियम 80,000 रुपए का प्रीमियम दिए बगैर उनका कारोबार नहीं चलता. And then they resort to Facebook marketing या resort to flyers या अपनी दोस्तों की मिन्नतें करते हैं कि प्लीज आ जाएं, मैंने एग्जिबिशन लगाई है, आके मुझसे लाजमी कुछ ले लें, and you force your friends and family to give you money, right? So you can do that, of course, but ultimately it's still marketing cost. And I think मैंने काफी लंबी बात कर ली है. I think I'm done on my end. मेरा गला भी सूख गया, so I'll pause here for a minute and I'll let Tara sort of take it from here to pose any questions anybody has, and I'm happy to answer them. But you've got to give me 1 minute so I can get some kava, and I'll turn my video off for 1 second just so I can pour myself some kava. Okay, because my throat is kind of sore. Okay, I'm back. So, Tara, if you have any questions, happy to listen. So Tara, will you ask the questions, or do you want me to just steer away?
Okay, hi, welcome back. We're glad you got the kava. We are just making sure there's a little bit of an echo, so I was just trying to soften that. We have been given, 46 people have submitted questions in advance. So what we're going to do in the interest of Muneeb's crazy schedule, as well as all of you and your busy schedules, is we're first going to begin by just going through those questions and seeing how we get with the time. So one, I'm just going to try and lower the volume a little bit so that it's less of an echo. Hopefully you can all still hear me. So now we'll go question by question, and we will begin. So first question's from Nafisa Jivanji of Jamil Designs, and her question is, the system of Bikie operation, how is it helpful for her home-based fashion business? I think we'll pin you back. Let's see. Let me unmute you, okay. We're just gonna pin you and unmute you, Muneeb, as you somehow got muted in this situation. Okay. Spotlight video, Muneeb, asked to unmute. Okay, are you unmuted now? Thank you. Muneeb, if you could answer a home-based business in fashion, how Bikie can help.
देखिए जी, हमारी जो trend है, that is perhaps not in city to city. Our strength is within the city. Okay? So if you are a home-based business, my presumption is या तो आपके अपने कोई clients होंगे जो आपको word of mouth order करती होंगी, या आपका कोई Facebook पे कोई shop होगी. तो you leverage us, or you use our app. आप app अगर नहीं इस्तेमाल करना चाहते, you can call. We have a very simple number. It's 0307-1234567. So you can just call the number, or you can go on the app. And whenever you need to deliver something, or in lieu of that delivery, also collect some cash, for payment, you can use Bikeya. And you have two options there. Option number one is कि जी आप कहें कि जो पैसे वो collect कर लिए हैं, उस पैसे को Bikeya के wallet में जमा करो और मैं आपको account number बता दूंगी, उसमें आप transfer कर देना. Option one ये है. और ऑप्शन टू जो है वो ये है कि जी आप वापसी का भी किराया देने के लिए हामी हो और वो राइडर जो है वापस कैश लेके वापस आपकी तरफ आएगा. और अगर आपने एक डिलीवरी नहीं करानी, 2-3 जगह डिलीवरी करानी है, तो 2-3 जगह डिलीवर करके सारा कैश वसूल करके वापस भी ला सकते हैं. सो आई डोंट नो कि आपकी काम की क्या नौयत है, बट वी प्राइमरली could be utilized for deliveries for your business.
Okay, so the next question, is that okay? We go on to the next question, Muneeb?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. The next question is from Mariam Zaidi, who's at Khadi as well as a fashionpreneur. She wants to link all fashion entrepreneurs' businesses into a single e-store and build an entrepreneur e-shop. What is the best way for her to do that?
I mean, listen, that many people have been trying to do that, right? So, so I think my 2 cents of advice would be कि जो complexity है ना, वो ये complexity है कि जी inventory जो बेच रहा है, वो by the time you get an order, वो inventory बिक तो नहीं गई. सबसे बड़ी complexity ये है, right? क्योंकि inventory depth पाकिस्तान में इतनी कम है कि एक जोड़ा अगर होता है तो उसके, like if you in the West or you're in Asia, you would probably have 1,000 pieces behind that. All 1,000 pieces in medium size. That's not the case in Pakistan. The inventory depth is very little, and what that means is कि basically जो बेचने वाला designer है, वो ना सिर्फ आपके प्लेटफॉर्म पे बेच रहा है, लेकिन 4 और प्लेटफॉर्म से भी बेच रहा है और अपनी दुकान पे भी बेच रहा है, अपने दोस्तों को भी बेच रहा है, एग्जीबिशन पे भी बेच रही है, So I think setting up the platform is quite easy, but making sure that you have items that stick around, that are actually available, is the most complex part. And listen, if you want to start a store, you can just go to Shopify, a Pakistani company, Fishery, उनका भी आप platform इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. Platform खड़ा करना तो I think it'll just take you a couple of days. That's not an issue. The issue is more operational.
So yeah. Muneeb, if you can talk a bit just dive a bit deeper into the operations, because as you said, everybody now has their own e-commerce store, uses Facebook for e-commerce or so forth, but even big brands like TCS and Food Panda still haven't got it flawless. And I mean, that Uber Eats is so successful, but Kareem's version never quite took off. What is it that you did differently about Daraz.bk, and certainly with regard to Bikeya, that's building such a solid operational foundation, your secret sauce that we can learn from?
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, like most people are not happy with Daraz, right? So, and frankly speaking, मुझे 3 साल से ऊपर हो गए छोड़े हुए. And to be very candid with you, I'll tell you the truth. I mean, I never was in a position to change the product at Daraz because it was primarily a rocket internet incubation business. और जो product है, what I mean by product is कि हर step पे क्या होना है और customer को नजर क्या आना है. Those were not my decisions. Those were global decisions. And so, am I proud of basically being a part of Daraz? Absolutely. Am I proud of basically the experience Daraz gives to customers even today? Absolutely not. It's a terrible experience, right? So there's no secret sauce there. So first of all,
and why don't you
I'll tell you. Well, first of all, I'm not in that business anymore.
No, but in Bikeya.
Yeah. I mean, we can get into that space. मैं आपको complexity बताता हूँ ना. Complexity ये कि इस panel पे 60-70 लोग हैं. इन 60-70 लोगों के आप समझें, almost everybody is trying to sell everywhere, right? And because they're trying to sell everywhere, जिसके पास पहले दिखेगा उसको वो बेच देंगे, लेकिन बकाया बेसिकली 69 लोगों को नहीं बताएंगे. दिस इज द कम्प्लेक्सिटी. सो लोग टीसीएस को गालियां दे दें या किसी और को गालियां दे दें, रियलिटी टीसीएस की गलती नहीं है. यू नो, टीसीएस देखें, अगर तो टीसीएस आप कहते हैं, मेरा कंपैरेटर है टीसीएस, बट लिसन, इट्स अ फैंटास्टिक कंपनी. यू नो, कराची के अंदर अगर आप हैं तो TCS will deliver to you, sure, many hours after बाइकिया. बाइकिया अगर घंटे में या आधे घंटे में करके देगा तो TCS 24 घंटे या 48 घंटे में करके देगा, लेकिन करेगा, and they'll do a really good job at it, right? It's the problem is कि basically आप बेच रहे हैं अपना माल टंडो वाला यार में, right? तो टंडो वाला यार पहुंचते पहुंचते जब तक पार्सल पहुंचेगा, कस्टमर जो है वो घूम जाएगा. कस्टमर कहेगा मैं घर पे नहीं हूं, या कस्टमर कहेगा अभी मेरे पास पैसे नहीं है, कल आ जाना. यू नो, तो इसमें टीसीएस की क्या गलती है? टीसीएस की जिम्मेवारी तो बेसिकली माल पहुंचाना था, लेकिन वो टीसीएस बेचारे को ख्वार कर रहे हैं, 3 दफा चक्कर लगवाएंगे, उसके बाद इट्स क्वाइट पॉसिबल कि वो कस्टमर पैसे देने के लिए हामी ना. सो द प्रॉब्लम इज इन वन पेमेंट and 2 order confirmation. So Baikia will inshallah try to, and hopefully अगले 30 दिन नहीं तो 2 months के अंदर हम लोग एक समझें WhatsApp और वेबसाइट पे एक widget क्रिएट करेंगे जिससे आप किसी से भी, खासकर टंडो वाला यार के किसी कस्टमर से 10% डिपॉजिट लें. क्योंकि अगर आप डिपॉजिट नहीं लेंगे कि आपकी कोई उस कस्टमर की कमिटमेंट ही नहीं है, वो कस्टमर फिर जाएगा, राइट? सो आई थिंक पिंडी, कराची, लाहौर के अंदर तो कैश ऑन डिलीवरी कैन वर्क, बट आउटसाइड ऑफ दिस customer has too much time to change their mind.
So, Muneeb, we had 2 questions on that. One was from Saman Ali of New Treats, who uses Baikia. She wants you to elaborate on the delivery services and how responsible the riders are with cash handling. We also have a second cash question here. I'm just trying to, we have so many questions. I'm trying to find the one about basically people canceling. It was from a home food caterer saying if somebody ordered something and then canceled it, and I'm just trying to find their name, but maybe while you're answering the question, then I'll look for her and we can credit her afterwards, okay? That if someone cancels, they're stuck making the order, they never get the payment, and they're stuck with product that's now wasted.
Yeah, so I think जहाँ तक आपका पहला सवाल है really about the reliability of Baikia drivers. Listen, we run a 2-sided marketplace, and what that means is that the riders are not our employees. Okay? And it's taken us a very long time to split up and stratify and identify किस rider को किस नौयत की job देनी है. तो अगर आप बाइकिया इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं तो आपने लाजमी कैश ऑन डिलीवरी की अमाउंट पे क्लिक करना है, क्योंकि अगर आप कैश ऑन डिलीवरी की अमाउंट पे क्लिक नहीं करेंगे तो यू विल बी असाइंड अ राइडर हु वी प्रिज्यूम इज नॉट हैंडलिंग कैश और विल नॉट हैंडल कैश, राइट? एंड द रीजन दैट्स इंपॉर्टेंट इज कि जो कैश हैंडलिंग ड्राइवर्स, और फ्रैंकली स्पीकिंग हमारा प्रोसेस पहले इतना अच्छा नहीं होता था, it's only in the last couple of months कि we've really started focusing on this, जब से डिलीवरी का काम और COD का काम बढ़ना शुरू हुआ. उससे पहले हमारा कोर काम तो बस बाइक टैक्सी का काम था, right? So I think recently we have gotten pretty good at it. और अगर आपको अभी कोई complaint होती है तो basically please go ahead and put it in the app and complain about it. But in general now, if you have chosen cash on delivery, our riders should be quite reliable, particularly for cash on delivery over 2,500 rupees. So under 2,500 rupees हमारी जो protocols हैं वो भी इतने strict नहीं है, लेकिन 2,500 रुपए से ऊपर जो भी amounts होंगे उसके protocols बहुत strict हैं. और आपका ये क्यों? Because you know we are doing tens of thousands of basically bookings any single day. तो सारी की सारी bookings हम जो है top drivers को नहीं दे सकते, right? टॉप ड्राइवर्स को हम सिर्फ वो बुकिंग्स देंगे जिनकी कैश डिनोमिनेशन ज्यादा है, ठीक है. सो I would encourage you to use it, but like you have to follow the SOP. अब अक्सर होता लोगों का ये कि जी उन्होंने डिलीवरी नहीं इस्तेमाल की होती या अमाउंट वैल्यू नहीं लिखी होती और ट्रांजैक्शन हो जाती है, उसके बाद कहते हैं जी वो तो राइडर ने मेरा फलाना आइटम डैमेज कर दिया, उसकी वैल्यू तो 10,000 रुपए थी. But nowhere did you tell us it was worth 10,000 rupees, even though we've explicitly asked you in the process कि हमें वैल्यू बताएं, राइट. और फिर आप जाके फेसबुक पे हमें गालियां देंगे, ये करेंगे कि जी बाइकिया वाले ने मेरी आइटम डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया. It becomes a he says who says basically contest, you know, क्योंकि we are not watching the transaction until something goes wrong. It's only when the transaction goes wrong that we go and investigate, we call up the driver, we investigate the driver, but again, it's after the process. So it's very, very important, particularly if you're doing cash denominated transactions, कि आप अपनी data entry जो है वो complete करें, क्योंकि that is your only recourse for insurance with Baikya. दूसरा सवाल मुझे समझ नहीं आया, by the way, if you can repeat that, I didn't understand the question.
Okay, so we also have a question from Yasmin Dadaboy, who asked, in times such as the pandemic, many core services of companies like those like Baikya have become close to redundant. What would you suggest as a course for action? Stick with the core function and wait the pandemic out, or diversify into a product pandemic related product, or try to reinvent your product to align itself with the so-called new normal?
So it's a complex question, and the reason I say that is कि देखें, जब आपकी core business ट्रांसपोर्ट की डबल सवारी की बिजनेस है और जब हुकूमत ने इस पे सस्पेंशन लगाई हुई है, जिस सस्पेंशन के बारे में मुझे कुछ तो समझ नहीं आती, क्योंकि एक जो ड्राइवर है उसने हेलमेट पहनी हुई है, आगे उसके वाइजर है, जस्ट लाइक अ हेल्थ वाइजर, और अगर हुकूमत खास कर बेसिकली पैसेंजर्स को कहे कि अपनी हेलमेट कैरी करके आए, तो दैट इज 20,000 times safer than sharing an air conditioned car with recirculated air or getting into a bus and sharing the poles with each other. So the logic defeats me, but that's a separate topic altogether. We have been severely impacted by the lockdown and by pillion riding being suspended. Fortunately, we had a small part of our business, which is the delivery business. And we spent the last 3 months really enhancing and building on the technology capabilities within our delivery product, ताकि उसको improve करें. उसमें बेशतर खामियां थी, उन खामियों को improve करें, resolve करें. तो ये जो टाइम है, ये टाइम बिजनेस बंद करने का नहीं है, ये टाइम है जो आपने काम आपके बेसिकली पाइल अप हुए थे, जिनको आपने हाउस क्लीनिंग करनी थी, आपकी प्लम्बिंग करनी थी, उस काम को आप अभी करें, क्योंकि you know the world will come back, right? I mean, for us, double sawari will come back. It's not going to come back. And new normal, I mean, listen, sure, new normal का क्या मतलब है? New normal का मतलब ये है कि लोगों की behaviors वापस आने में थोड़ा सा टाइम लगेगा. And do I believe कि we as a business needs to find more digital products जिसका आपस में लोगों का आपस में physical connection now? Absolutely. And we will be building more products from a technology and product perspective, जो कि payments होगी या आपकी digital transactions होगी. लेकिन you know, I mean, I can't believe कि basically दुनिया रुक जाएगी. दुनिया तो नहीं रुकेगी. दुनिया, the world is going to come back. So, yeah.
So we have another question from Margaret Fialco from GSK. In fact, we're going to read 2-3 questions related to you as a person. Her question is, what is the one thing you keep in mind to remain constant, i.e. to maintain your focus? We also have a question from Anusha Shroff, e-growth marketer. What drives you, as in what drives you, Muneeb? We have a question from Faria Imran of She Views on how to become a good leader, to lead with example and motivate team to be the best. So it's about you as a leader. And then a question from Sadaf Tahir. We're going to read a bunch of them because they're quite connected. Sadaf Tahir of Let's Rise asked, what was the first step it took and how confident were you about making the first step? This also can connect to when did you know the right moment to leave Daraz and start and found Baikia? And then it's...
Wow, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, so they're all connected though. So we'll begin with those. You know, there's 46 questions. So you answer them the best you can, whatever you can.
Yeah, so listen, I mean, I think for all of us, right? For all of us, we want to do something meaningful. You know, we want to do something. We want to do something that can leave a legacy. Right? I mean, back in the day, people would write a book to leave a legacy, or they would build a monument to leave a legacy. You know, that's kind of hard to do in the digital world of today, right? Anything that you write has a lifespan of a few minutes, a few days, a few years, maybe. Of course, it goes into the digital archive, but you know, so I think what drives me is what drives an inventor, is what drives a scientist. Khabat, right? It's not money that drives. I mean, you ask an inventor if he's motivated by money, they're like, no, and you'll be like, you paglon ki tarah phir kyun kaam kar rahe ho? It's khabat, right? And I think you need to have khabat for something in life. Like, it can be anything, right? Like, but you need to find some khabat or some purpose for anything. Now you can choose what that is, and it can be meaningless for other people. So, for example, you know, I can be completely excited about building an app, but if I take this idea to like a medical research guy, he'd be like, or a girl, they'd be like, why would you be interested in this? Like, wouldn't you be more interested in, you know, deciphering the human genome and, you know, making a cure for cancer? But that's what floats their boat, right? That's what they're excited about. I'm not excited about that, right? You know, I have friends and, you know, family members who get very excited about getting in a Jeep rally and winning a race, or driving a really nice sports car, right? And people clapping at them and saying, oh, wow, you're so cool, you have such a nice car, right? But that's not interesting to me. So I think sometimes you've got to recognize that people are a herd, right? And it doesn't matter what the herd thinks, right? Because the herd is always going to have a very banal common life. And the question is, do you want to have an uncommon life? And of course, that doesn't need to be a happy life. Like, you don't wake up as a scientist being happy every morning and chirpy every morning. You're in pain. You're disgruntled because everything you've tried to do has failed in the last few weeks, a few years. But you still go to work every morning, right? Because you're so khapti about what it is that you're trying to do. So I think, you know, it's not bad to be khapti, right? It's not bad to be eccentric. Like, everyone doesn't need to be perfect, you know? Like, you don't need to be loved by everyone. Why does it matter? You need to be respected by people, but why loved, right? So yeah, I mean, you know, I think all of us are looking for a purpose every day, and in terms of leadership, I think I'm not the best leader. There are many people who are way better leaders than I am. But for the things that I do, and I start companies, I'm not the best person to run very large organizations. You know, it doesn't excite me. Right? But in terms of leadership, I mean, I'm probably good at starting companies, but I'm probably terrible at managing very large companies.
So we have another question from Ehsan Mehdi, who is the CEO of R. Habib Commodities. If you had a choice, what's preferred, debt or equity for startups? Oh, you've gone mute. Sorry, we have to unmute you. Sorry, you have to unmute yourself, Muneeb. Asked to unmute.
Okay, there we go. I mean, yeah, it depends what's available, right? If I have free debt available, like in America or Germany, in Pakistan nowadays, like 20 lakh rupees aapko uncollateralized mil rahe hain. Take it, right? Whatever is available for cheap, right? So if debt is cheap, get it. If debt is expensive, think about how you'll pay it back. You know, equity is the hardest thing to get. Because equity is based on trust. Debt is based on your track record, right? And equity is based on trust. So, you know, the businesses that I help start are not asset heavy businesses. They don't require land, they don't require machinery, they don't require vehicles. So it's very hard for us to get debt. We can't get debt. And because we can't get debt, we have to go and try and get equity, right? And what that means is that every time we try and, you know, get money, we've got to give a piece of our dream to someone. And, you know, I mean, you can't be like in 19 maine apni company ka koi hissa nahi dena, you know. You're not gonna be able to build on your dreams then. Like either you keep dreaming in your head or you give up a part of your dream and allow other people to make some money off them. And for me, equity has been what has helped drive any of the ventures that I have led.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. We have a question from Tuba Said. How can we build this? How can we build a strong customer market when the competition is so tough, excuse me, in a small scale business? A similar question was asked by Myra Qureshi of Co-Natural about customer acquisition.
I mean, you know, I mean, so customer acquisition, you know, like the example I gave you, right? So basically what happens is Facebook is quite congested because not only are you advertising, your competitors are also advertising, and your competitors are willing to give Facebook more money than you are to show their product to more customers than you can. Right? So you're not going to win that battle, right? Unless you have a lot of money. If you're not going to win that battle, then what battle can you win? The only battle that you can win is the battle from click to a star, right? And so that's the journey that you've got to think about.
Sorry, what does that mean? Click to star? Can you explain that, please?
So someone clicks, then there's order confirmation, then there's order management, then there's fulfillment, which includes delivery, right? Then there is ratings and reviews, which is the star that I'm talking about.
Okay, so all the way from beginning to end.
Yeah, so that's all that you can be better at.
Okay.
And of course, you can be better at design, so that you can have more people. You can have a better click-through ratio relative to competition.
Okay, brilliant. Now we have a question from Zoya Saleh. How can you begin, like, establish a business without having any large investment from anyone?
Mary, your first, I think I cited this earlier. Like SNL, the business that I first set up, is today the second largest IT exporter from Pakistan. और मेरे को hardly उस पे कोई पैसे लगे थे, because what I did was I went to my employer and I said, can I become your contractor? And that's probably the best thing to do, right? Like your employer is the best person to get a contract from. Right? So I went to my employer, had no money, continued to be employed at a very, very low salary. But the deal that I struck was any savings that I would strike for my employer, I would get a piece of the pie. Right? And that went from 3 people to 50 people to 100 people to 600-700 people, and now 1,500 people. And for every one of those people, I got a piece of the pie. Right? So it didn't take me money to go pitch to my employer to make me a contractor. So I don't think, listen, if I had money, there's nothing better than that, right? What's better than that, right? But if I don't have any money, that doesn't mean that I can't hustle. You can hustle.
Very, very true. So now we have from Rabia Rafiq, who's IT business partner at Unilever. How do you, Muneeb, see the future of e-commerce in essentials like soap, detergent, etc.?
Sorry, your voice broke up. Could you repeat?
Sure, of course. This question is from Rabia Rafiq she's an IT business collaborator for Unilever. And she wants to know the future of e-commerce for products such as soap, detergent, etc. Since you know all the answers, right?
Yeah. So listen, I can tell you publicly. So listen, first of all, it makes no economic sense for you to deliver soap for anyone. So the question is, why does Amazon do it? Why does Amazon drive it, right? Because what Amazon does is, Amazon charges your card immediately. So they've got the money, right? There's not a hope and pray that the customer is going to pay, right? So that's one. The second thing is Amazon is also a warehouse. So they're also a distributor. So Amazon becomes the distributor. So they run their fulfillment like a distributor does. That's not the case in Pakistan. So how do you solve it in an emerging country, emerging geography like Pakistan? I mean, 70 rupees ka agar saban hai, so how much is a customer willing to pay for the delivery? In my opinion, it can only be solved with Bikea.
With what?
It can only be solved with Bikea.
Bikea. Okay, so you're the solution. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any other way. But it can only be solved for 2 types of customers. One customer that is willing to pay a convenience fee to get it in the next 20 minutes. So the Bikea will have to go get it from the nearby dukan. So it's like your chotu, right?
Okay, but
it cannot come.
The drones that are coming globally.
That's stupid. Like, think about it. Like we've also, by the way, we've also done this gimmick. हमने भी pizza deliver किया हुआ drone के ऊपर. लेकिन आप मुझे बताएं कि basically drone अगर आप suburban area में हो, जहाँ सारे single story घर हों, सारों के lawns हों, वहाँ तो टक टक करके आप drone से जाके delivery कर देंगे. लेकिन कराची जैसे शहर में कौन से फ्लैट में जाके ग्रिलों में जाके आप टक टक जाके ड्रोन अपने आप ऐसे सर मारेगा? It's not gonna happen, right? So all of those are just marketing gimmicks, right? So we've also done this marketing. दूसरा जो बेसिकली कस्टमर मेरे ख्याल में साबन ले सकता है, तो वो कस्टमर ले सकता है जो कि कस्टमर बंडल करके बकाया सौदे के साथ अपना साबन लेना चाहता है, और वो साबन जो है वो डिलीवरी के लिए 24 घंटे के लिए इंतजार करने के लिए हामी है. So we will inshallah try to get into this space. We don't understand this space very well, so we hope that we can work with you. You know, after about 30 days from now, shoot me an email. We'd love to work with you to learn this business. This is your business. This is not our business. We are still trying to understand this business. But I don't see regular e-commerce delivering sabun. Not through the current supply chain.
Thank you for that. We have Muniza Butt, partner KPMG. Have you considered keeping female riders? And if so, what has your experience been with them in managing such a job?
भाई आपने फेसबुक पे लाइक्स लेनी है, शेयर्स लेनी है, तो फिर तो आप बेसिकली एक लड़की को बिठा दें मोटर बाइक पे और बेसिकली लोग तालियां बजाएंगे, 4 दिन खुश होंगे, हफ्ते के बाद सारे लोग भूल जाएंगे. What impact have you really created beyond marketing impact? I mean, let's be candid, right? Like, what impact have you created? You have essentially only done clapping sessions with your peers, right? In reality, basically, the problem, the systemic problem in Pakistan is that there is a cultural problem for a woman to sit on a motorbike like a man. And women sit on that scooter or motorbike basically in Ahmedabad, India, or Jakarta, Indonesia. So fundamentally, women need to either change into pants or be comfortable wearing a shalwar kameez and sitting like a man does on a motorbike. That's the number one problem to solve. Okay. The number two problem to solve is that basically the culture has to start accepting it. Okay. We are not in the business of training women. हमने basically foreign इदारों और हुकूमत से एड के पैसे नहीं लिए हुए कि जी हम उसको बेसिक ट्रेनिंग एंड एजुकेशन के लिए इस्तेमाल करें. अगर आपके पास कोई इदारे हैं जो कि बेसिकली औरतों की ट्रेनिंग के लिए तैयार हैं, सो बिस्मिल्लाह, we'll induct them into our platform. But that's not our business, right? So, like, I'm sorry I'm answering in this manner, and it may be offensive to you, but let's try and solve the real problem instead of basically lip serving this problem.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer. We now have a specific question from Saira Shazad. If she wants to invest in Baikia by providing a bike, is it possible to buy a bike and register it with Baikia, or does she need to provide a driver as well?
So, listen, it won't make sense for you after 30 days. Okay. And the reason for that is that this guy is going to make so much money in 30 days, he's going to buy his own bike and get you out on the side. So, अगर आप फलाई काम करना चाह रहे हैं, सो बिस्मिल्लाह. लेकिन अगर आप बहुत ज़्यादा पैसे कमाना चाह रहे हैं, तो आपको constantly लोग भर्ती करने होंगे.
So there's quite a speed in the guy's success. That's pretty awesome. Okay, then we have a question from Iftahim, the MD of Insight Group, who wants to know what it takes to be successful. We have a question similarly from the Shagufa Afsan. who's a home foodpreneur, the key behind your success. What are the things that have made you what you are today? And please.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, first of all, I'm not really successful. ठीक है? अन्नों में कांटे हैं हम लोग यहाँ, you know? I don't know if you understand that, but basically it just means the half blind amongst the blind, right? But I mean, if there's any quality any of my team members have, and perhaps, some of that I may also have, is grit, perseverance, and khabat. So I think all of these help.
Thank you. We also have from Aisha Chaudhry's just made the comment that WOW is Women on Wheels. It's an organization teaching women how to ride bikes in case you ever want to collaborate with them. We then have a question from Maham Fatmi, which is, what are your future goals?
What are my future goals, or what are Baikia's future goals?
Your future goals. She's interested in Muneeb specifically.
I think my future goals are that I keep building something that is of value to a larger and larger set of people. And, whenever I leave, and everyone's going to leave, right? At least there are no regrets, right? So, yeah. I keep saying this. Jeff Bezos ne kaha tha, regret minimalization, right? So it's just minimizing your regrets.
Wonderful. There's two questions, one from Hira Shokat, and she's asked, how can students take advantage of this platform? And there's another question specifically on what can Baikia do for students?
Well, if your parents are paying for your tuition and you're just a lazy bum, then just hop on the back of a motorbike and use your daddy's money, or your mommy's money, and basically get back and forth from university and college or tuitions. But if you want to be a real person, a real entrepreneur, a real hustler, a real trader, then pay for your college tuition through Baikia. You can. It's really whether you want to or not. And if you don't work hard right now, and you don't earn your own living right now, it's going to be very hard when you're in your 20s to change that mindset.
Okay, thank you so much. As it's now 7:30, our hard end. There's so many questions. We'll send them all to you. And if you want to answer any, we'll put them up on our Facebook page or in an email to all those registered for today. And everything has been recorded. So we're going to try and figure out to upload it on our YouTube channel and our website. But most of all, we have a big thank you for you, Muneeb. You were simply amazing. And on behalf of all of us at Ladies Fund, we have a plaque for you that we'll be bringing across to thank you for your time. And for those of you who weren't here at the start of the call, Muneeb has really given his time and patience in answering the questions, as well as teaching the inside scoop in building a Buraq after our Buraq Center, which is the Pakistani and Islamic version of a unicorn. And our Buraqs are pink for the Women of Ladies Fund. And he's given great insight today, for which we thank him. We'll be, of course, having a series of such talks leading up to, of course, the State Bank Governor, who will be addressing us specifically on loans for women. So thank you all for being a part of today's call, and especially Muneeb. We could not have done this without you, of course. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the opportunity.